You know I never will make it by. And I can't breathe if it isn't you and I.
Rag is there!
Oh, that is absolute dynamite. And boom, it goes.
And boom, the layout goes. Slusta and Decran are on the move. To Decran!
Good afternoon, sports fans. We are here at the London Invite Open Round 2. We are watching Clapham Ultimate of London versus Bristol Ultimate of, no surprise, Bristol. I'm Amelia Durbin, joined in the mic with Gigi Morrison, and we have both just played each other about 5 minutes ago. Hi,
it's
Gigi.
also our first game that we've ever commentated together, so
here
I'm
we
actually
are.
really excited. Also, this matchup, what a dream.
What a dream
I feel
indeed.
like you're going to love this because you know pretty much everyone.
I do. I have chosen I'll be with you on the play-by-play, and I think I know everyone's last name and can pronounce it properly. So that's great. We've just played, so you're going to need to bear with us just for a second. We're both currently taking our boots off. Might need to take a sip of water. But these two teams in the Open Division, this is an EUF ranked game, so both teams are going to be playing for points. Clapham have had a pretty dominant start against Bropen this season already. Bropen took a loss at Fog Lane, I believe it was 15-4. So we're underway with the Bropen side. Mason, Alan on the sideline. Sully slashes. Alan can't hit Zarod and finds back to Alan. Recently off a broken finger. Nice to see him back out there. Lloyd comes to receive. Bropen looking a little bit stuck now. Goes all the way backfield to Mason. Lloyd on the sideline. Clapham defence really kind of stifling the movement of Bropen. They are having to go backwards. Alan overthrows, misconnection, and the first turnover.
Yeah, some stifling defense really slowing Bristol down. But that D was not slow at all.
That was not slow at all. Clapham getting a little bit overexcited, absolutely swatted down. I'm going to have to pull up the roster as I know the first name, but not the second.
They don't actually have a roster on ComSource, which is really quite annoying.
Well, Bropen, I'm not going to say any of your names. Bropen on the disc. Clock ticking away, struggling to find an option, pops a high one up. Alan tries to go over the top of McCulloch and can't. Hillman to McCulloch. Back to Hillman. To McCulloch. Rag, a little bit of shake and bake, can't hit him. Well guarded. This is good defense from the Bropen side. But free in the isolation space, guarded by Sully. You see Clapham doing this thing that they call beats, when they really aggressively fake to dictate and show the cutters downfield what they need. Rag finds a release valve in, I believe that's Yo, and that is a break. Oh no, that's Ogden. That's a break for Clapham. 1-0.
Yeah, I'd say a confident start from both sides. We've seen a few turns. Not unsurprising, we've seen that across multiple games where the first 2 to 3 points, teams are just getting used to each other, getting used to these pitches again. But Clapham on the stronger end of that confident side, the quick dish, really wanting to utilize that break side space. And Bristol doing a great job in slowing Clapham down just outside of the end zone. But it is these break throws, it just opens up the entire width of the pitch. And it gives them multiple different options, and they take them on, giving them their first score of the game.
Yeah, it makes it so hard to mark if you're playing against a team that kind of has a full arsenal of skill throws in their locker. Bropen are kind of similarly matching that at the top end of their roster, but they have brought in lots of young players this year, which is really, really great to see. Kind of still embedding that younger side into their team, whereas Clapham, as you know, the OGs of Ultimate, you could call them. They've had a lot of people on that team that have been there for years and years.
We are starting to see some younger players filter through, which is quite nice.
We are.
It'd be interesting to see whether there will be some more younger players filtering through after WUC next year.
Yep. Could potentially be a bit of a mass exodus with that old generation stepping down. As we see Bristol Open now, Sully slashes. Jeffrey, a young player, really stepping up to the occasion at these tournaments. Mason now. Yo with quite a flat force. Over to Diggs. Or Dig Hero for the full name. Barrett now. Richardson. Sully free, but 2 peel off. There's a free player and they find him. A bit of a bash. Dig Hero, or Diggs as we know him, calling a foul there.
I'm not surprised that the foul has been called there. There was definitely contact established, but it's just indicating or trying to establish when it would have affected the play at that point. Because he did come through.
I can understand that as well. Obviously, I think in the old rule set that would be called a strip, but here obviously just a foul. A bit of a strange option from Richardson, perhaps, to throw the scuba. But you know, scubas are becoming very trendy, as we do see it be accepted, which means Dekiro has the disc. Allen now dishes a quick one down to Richardson, and that is a hold for Bristol. They're on the board. It's 1-1.
All smiles for Chris Allen. He's been having a phenomenal few seasons now, having gone through the GB Seniors cycle last year in Australia. Played phenomenally there and is now starting to bring that level of experience and psych to Bropen. Also coming off of Beach Euros last weekend with a bunch of the other Bristol lads on this team. The slash across and then the confident dish to the front end zone line. I do like how Bristol's offense really tried to focus on just isolating one player at any one time. It's not cluttered, it's not all over the place. They do look for that single option, and then if that's not on, then it's the dump.
Yeah, Bropen have been working really hard this season. They haven't in previous, but this is the year that really means a lot to them. Obviously, it's WUC qualification, and there's 3 spots at UK Nationals this year in the open side, so they've got every possible chance there. Coached by the fantastic Molly Wedge, who's obviously playing for the Canadian World Games team here this weekend. So they are without coach, sans coach. However, they've got a lot of experience and a really good kind of leadership core that's going to push them through, hopefully to some success this weekend. They've already come away with a win. They took Ranelagh on Universe, which apparently was a really emphatic last point, not on the stream. But there was a layout D, a layout score, lots of changes of possession with Bristol coming up with the dub.
2 different teams with massive personalities. That must have been an incredible game.
Yeah, the Irish, they love a bit of an Aggie game, but Aggie in a positive way. So we see Knight on the disc. We're getting the first look of, I believe this is called the blue line. Bropen have 2 lines, Voldemort and blue, 1 from Harry Potter, 1 from The Office, and this is Team Blue. So let's see what they can do as we see Ford doing a beautiful lateral slash, firing deep to Martin. Martin is there, spins around in the sandbar. Does he have it in the hands? He does, and that is a goal for Clapham. Probably not how they drew it out the textbook.
No, I mean, yeah, that patch of sand is going to cause some havoc. Just having to adjust his momentum, a little spin move to catch it into the chest. But the setup here for Ford was so good. I mean, he's been one of the best players in Europe for a very good reason, and just the fact that he can step through so wide and lean across to get that throw out with so much snap, make it easy for Martin to run onto.
Yeah, absolutely. I think if you just watch, being able to throw a flick with the momentum and let it carry over but maintain that kind of strong trunk, the core control, is easily something to overlook, but that takes a lot of skill to kind of control that power. Good reception from Martin, just having a little swim in the sandbath like a chinchilla. But alas, Clapham on the board again, 2-1. Bristol now trading down after getting broken out of that first point. Oh, it's a lovely weekend.
It really, really is. We've got a lot more coverage coming up for you. So we obviously had some of the mixed games as like some friendlies that you can watch back on ULTI.TV. We've got a lot more coverage coming up throughout the day across all 3 divisions. We've got the mixed rounds coming up, so please do like, subscribe. If you aren't already a member, become a member. So many perks, including incredible games like the ones that you're watching right now.
Turnover there, just a bit of a flash. Clapham disc in hand, but someone goes down hard, clutching the knee. I believe it's Richardson. Let me see it again here. This is the turnover. A touch too far, just behind. It's a nice shot, but just a little bit of a miscommunication. And Richardson looks shook up. Hopefully he's okay. A father to a lovely young baby, cat dad, 2 cats, and a great friend of mine, so hopefully he's okay. Yeah, we're just going to take an ad break here whilst we hopefully see Mike get up, but thank you for joining us. We'll be back with you very, very shortly.
What are they, spaceships from Mars? No, they're Frisbees. Watch it soar. It flies way around like a bird. You can even run for a pass. You can play all kinds of games. Isn't it amazing? Frisbee Flying Saucer. Yours at toy, drug, and department stores.
Jesus.
We're back here at the London Invite after the broken side taking an injury call. Richardson going down hard. Hopefully he is okay as we see him getting carried off by his teammates. Clapham do have the disc, however, after a turnover with Sam Hill of the Hill family on the disc. Hill to East. East to Brooking. Brooking overthrows, a turnover and a chance for Bristol to get back on the board as we see Allen in front of the disc. Zarod, disc in hand, known for being a bit of a shooter. Goes to Mason. Oh, that's Lloyd, sorry. Back to Zarod. Zarod to Barrett. Allen slashes laterally, single hand grab. Broken finger who? Zarod now, disc. Shooting. Just a little bit of a miscommunication, disc a little bit too far. A nice shot though.
Yeah, had 2 receivers, and I'm not sure whether one of them had tried to call the other one to get it. But it was definitely within reach. Wouldn't have been an easy catch, but one of them could have gotten it.
One of them could have got it. Sometimes I think when you see the disc going up and you see someone who's just a couple of steps ahead of you, you're like, I'll let that one go, you can have the glory, but there.
I feel like it's a very British thing. It's like, no, you, no, you.
Yeah, it's like when you meet someone at the doorway and then you just end in this never-ending cycle. Clapham shooting back in their own style. Brooking receives, goes down hard. A bit of a bosh.
Signals
an
for the
injury being
injury.
called. Watch it again here. I don't think that that's anyone's fault there. I think,
Yeah, it looked like it was on the landing.
yeah, that's a bit of a nasty one. Hopefully he is okay. With that second injury, we are going to go to another quick ad break, and hopefully Brooking is going to be okay. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll be back with you very, very shortly.
Oh my goodness. That is unbelievable. And created the net and made for it.
That was absolutely incredible. Welcome back here to London Invite as we see Henry Brooking taking off the field after a bit of a heavy landing. The possession will stay with Clapham, just in front of their end zone, but a violation being called. Players not sure where they are.
Yeah, it's not a bad substitution bringing on Josh Briggs
It's
in that
not.
place when he's on disc.
In the infamous orange hat. Fakes off East, goes to Gordon, Warnock flies, back to Briggs. Briggs to Abrams. East not free. Rolly one over the top, underneath it. Warnock does his best, but Gordon takes it in the chest That's a break for Clapham, 3-1.
A little bit messy on the front of the end zone line. There's still relatively good patience. And knowing that they can trust each other to be able to get free. So we saw Abrams receiving for Briggs. And they're confident around the back. I don't think that was the intended release because the wind did quickly come in and caught the wrong edge of the disc, just floating it slightly further up. But again, when you've got a receiver like Ollie Gordon, it's almost a given. It's gonna be a score.
Yeah, we were saying earlier today in one of the open round ones that when it's gusty like this, there's really nothing that you can do. You can throw out a perfect throw in one gust of wind and it's like, uh-oh, my throw is ruined. I know I was saying to my team against Georgie's team about 20 minutes ago, as I kept saying, just take the option that you normally would, and if it gets blown away, I don't care. Just throw the disc, please.
The universe has other plans, and that's not it.
Exactly. 3-1 here then at London Invite, the tournament of the summer. I've been looking forward to this all year, and thank you so much for joining us. We have Ultimate Frisbee going on all weekend here. This is only open round 2. There's a whole other 3 rounds to come of mixed. No, it's mixed. Women's open.
And then mixed
and
again.
Then again.
The mixed showcase, no less.
The mixed showcase of this. And we're here on the field watching Bropen versus Clapham 3-1 as we see Voldemort out. Mason to Lloyd. They're trying to do a little bit of a handler weave here, Bropen, but getting tangled up. Allen snaffles it away with one hand. Throws a bit of a low one to Sully. Can't receive it. Ogden fires deep in reception. 2 people cover it. Butt goes up. Can't take it down, which gives Bropen the chance to have the disc back. Let's see it again from Allen, just slightly undercooks it. Ogden goes up, picks up immediately and fires back. Mason on the disc. DeKiro goes deep, can't find it, finds Lloyd. Back to Allen. Considering he had a very badly broken finger, he's been having some fantastic grabs so
I think
far.
all of the discs that he's caught have been one-handed.
And I believe he's catching it with his broken hand as well, so maybe he's just got a magnet on it. The metal pins keeping it together.
He's training it back up again.
Ogden tries to go through and get the disc off Sully, but can't. Up the line from Lloyd, I believe. Back to Sully. Back to Mason. This is good from Bristol Open. You can see them really trying to get the disc onto this high side where they have a little bit more opportunity to float the disc out. Getting it on the break side is really important. Well, Jeffries can't stay composed, pops it up. That is a monumental travel by Magnus Wilson there, but it's not called. Hillman, Salt having a miscommunication, and rightly so after that monstrosity of a travel.
I'm not entirely sure what happened. There was a really strange sequence of events.
The disc never lies.
Yeah, maybe Hillman thought that Eels was going to come back in towards the sideline a bit more, but
who knows? Who knows? But they have taken a timeout. That's Bristol Open's first timeout of the game. It's 3-1. We're going to take a quick timeout here in the booth, and we'll be back with you very shortly.
Shopping Zillow and need a trusted resource for your real estate questions? Want to check on loan pre-approval? Reach out to HomeForce, an all-in-one home buying service engineered for ultimate players, fans, and friends. The HomeForce team provides services in real estate, mortgage financing, insurance, and much more. No pressure, no commitment, just trusted advice.
Yeah, look, all of my wins going crazy. I gotta brag on myself.
Welcome Welcome back to the London Invite. We are here in Open Round 2, watching Clapham Ultimate versus Bristol Open, otherwise known as Bropen, in an all Brit-off, an EUCS ranked game. I'm Amelia Durbin, joined by Gigi Morrison. Good game so far?
It's been fun, a bit blustery in this last point. We've seen the wind be the dictator of the point rather than them trying to push through. Of course, these are some extremely talented throwers, and sometimes the universe will just decide that it's not your day.
The universe giveth and the universe taketh. Alan chased by Butt, but taken nicely. Back to Mason. Alan and Mason, old-time friends, met at university on the Birmingham Ultimate side. Birmingham University, back to Sully. This Clapham defense forcing Bropen to go all the way back as we see an accepted foul from Rag, just having a little bit too much body there. Lloyd to Zarod as we hear the ever-famous Brenda call being made, which I believe is to match. I believe a fast count's been called. Also, I just wanted to adjust, Magnus Wilson did not cheat, there's 2 sidelines. This tape in front of the booth is not a sideline. Magnus, I'm so sorry. A little bit of picture-in-picture here for you at home.
Yeah.
To see the replay.
Fancy.
And the live, the live video. I reckon that's almost certainly a fast count violation, but I'm not seeing any hand signals, so I have no idea. Oh,
Yeah.
I'm now seeing contested stall out.
Interesting. Well, I mean, that there would still be a fast count discussion at that point, realistically, but I'd love to see some violation hand signals.
It's
So
okay, we don't need to know.
It was a contested stall out. It will come in stalling 8.
Stalling 8 indeed. Lloyd on the disc. Gonna need to find an option and find it fast. Goes immediately backfield. Bropen really losing a lot of ground here. Mason, DeKiro is free. That's really nice. Clapham defense is just really surrounding Bropen. That's nice. Jeffries. Been so impressed with Jeffries. Mason with the disc. Pick being called.
And some of that slick and decisive offense that we saw in the first few points from Bristol has slipped ever so slightly. All 4 cutters seem to be not creating as much space for each other. They're getting in each other's way. And this is, of course, a loss of the Clapham defense's pressure being applied onto them. But as the fatigue, the heat of the day, the wind, and then a little bit of panic slips in,
Yep.
some of the systems start to break down.
Yeah, what I will say though is watching Bropen play so far, this is a remarkably different game to how they played them at Fog Lane. At Fog Lane they really played down and really struggled to kind of generate any offense, and so to see them be able to move like this is fantastic. As we say, a really great grab by DeKiro. Lloyd on the disc. Sully tries to be free, it isn't. Allen gonna be tested. Bounces off. Can't be taken in, gives Clapham the disc. Rag fires a beautiful backhand IO to Hillman. The disc is trailing. It's a battle. Hillman bids and tries to get there but can't. That's nice from Hillman. Love the effort.
Yeah, I do like that he still made the bid attempt, because it's tricky. Even if when you know the disc is going to be flying far away from you, sometimes it'll just hang for an extra half second that gives you that extra opportunity. So it's great for him to still make the bid.
Bropen then all the way to go. It's 3-1. This has been a very long point, but I think Bropen have got a lot to be proud of here. Good attack. Back to Mason. Allen from Mason. Stall count must be getting high now, needs to find a reset, and they do. Clapham pushing Bropen all the way back into the end zone. This is so good from Clapham. can't generate a lot of options. Jeffries on the disc. Again, needs to find a release valve. Snaffles away, just can't get it onto the break side. And that is a break for Clapham after a very long point, 4-1.
Yeah, not particularly clean from either side, but much more confident play from Clapham there, as you saw and Amelia mentioned. Bristol getting pushed further and further down the field, stuck inside their own end zone at this point, and then having to find something just to get them out of that spot, prevent a Callahan, which is honestly more embarrassing than just turning over outside the front. And Clapham being super decisive and getting it in immediately.
I was at a Clapham training on Wednesday, and I'm sure they won't mind me saying, is that they were training different styles of defense, so pushing them under, pushing them deep, and then they were just doing end zone reps in their games. And it just shows that the best in the world do simple better. It doesn't need to be complicated. It doesn't need to be groundbreaking. If you get the fundamentals right and you train them over and over again, it becomes hard to mark because it's so good.
And you see that from some of the best players in the world. Like, you wonder why USA teams win consistently, time and time again, at pretty much every event that they go to. And it's because they just know how to throw better. They know how to make their cuts better. They know how to defend better. And it is, yeah, just the fundamentals. And realistically, if you're wanting to get better as a player, focus on the fundamentals more than anything else. You don't need to have any tricksy throws, being able to do 1,000,001 different ones. Just throw a flat backhand fine and you'll be good.
You're absolutely right. Bropen hoping to throw a couple of flat backhands themselves, as we see a new line come out for the Bropen side. Knight to Cameron. Cameron, big fake. Left all alone now. Throws an IO through the middle to Knight. Knight back to Cameron. Over to Knight. Goes to Ned. That's a swilly disc. Sam Hill swats it away, gets a good read. Nugent, one of the TDs for this weekend, doing double work here, playing for Clapham and also running the tournament. Hill to East. To Hill. To Abrams, back to Hill, back to East. Gordon comes free of the end zone. This is lovely discipline from Clapham Ultimate. Abrams slices through to Ollie Gordon, left all alone in the front of the end zone. That's 5-1 and another break for Clapham Ultimate.
That is just chill offense 101. That is exactly how you should play just outside the end zone. You take your time, you find the first open option that you can see that is completely viable. So yes, Gordon was theoretically free in that front corner, but East made the decision knowing that the defense was there. It would have been a much trickier throw than it would have been to just dish it back and reset and restart. And this is the confidence that Clapham needs to bring in for the rest of this game and to keep chugging along. And I do actually have a question for you. I'd like some insight.
Hit me.
So we've seen Clapham's season so far has been tumultuous.
Tumultuous, great word.
At this tournament, they've very much shown that they are in full contention of being up at the top of the best. Can you give any insight as to their journey so far to London Invite?
So Clapham have recognised, both from their own experts but also the feedback that I think have been getting from the community, which is your O-line's been the same for years. They play the same systems and the same structures, and I think they recognise that ahead of work and after losing the Euros final last year, they need to develop every single player on the roster equally. So throughout the season so far, Clapham have just been running 3 lines of mixed ability, O-liners mixed with D-liners, mixed with handlers, mixed with cutters, and just kind of repping those regardless of what happens. That did happen at Elite Invite, and I think they struggled to find their flow, building those new connections. They are still doing 3 lines here, but there is a significantly more O-leaning line, which is actually the line we're seeing now out on the field, but obviously they're playing defense. So Clapham have purposefully been developing every single player and slowly but surely building back into that O-line, D-line look that we know so well. Hope that helped.
That does make sense, thank you.
The wind really picked up now. Our tent nearly took off. And we got an immediate turnover, so Clapham had the disc. I didn't even see that. And they score very, very quickly. 6-1 now. Did you see that turnover?
I did not. There was a person standing in the way and I wasn't paying attention to the screen. But I'm sure that us and the fans will get another quick look at what happened. But even then, just being able to turn and switch on. So yeah, throw straight into the middle. Clapham choosing to sit in the lane and disrupt, and it's worked quite heavily in their favor. The quick dish give go over the front. Bristol trying to call through, but Ford is just there instead.
Ford swats it away. And we do see a timeout being called by Bristol Open. So we're going to take a quick timeout here in the booth to grab some water, and we'll be back with you after this.
Yeah, look, all of my friends going crazy. I gotta brag on myself.
Shopping Zillow and need a trusted resource for your real estate questions? Want to check on loan pre-approval? Reach out to HomeForce, an all-in-one home buying service engineered for ultimate players, fans, and friends.
Hello from the London Invite. We're here in the booth. I'm Amelia Devon, joined by Gigi Morrison, and we are watching Clapham versus Bristol Open. Clapham are up by 6. And Cameron shoots. A bit of foul being called here. Conversation happening. Not sure what's been seen.
It looked like there might have been some contact on the back shoulder.
We've got our... You can almost see McCulloch kind of like stepping away from it after the contact or supposed contact had been made. I'm not sure personally that that is a foul, as we see the handshake going and the foul's going to be retracted. I think that's the right outcome.
Yeah, it is always quite tricky for us to be able to call what is happening, because like we can have a semi-decent perspective on what actually, like whether there was collision or not, but we don't know what the sequence of events was before that, what was following it, where the disc was in relation to them. So, but there has been a resolution. It's been retracted.
Yes, it has. Clapham with the disc then. 31 minutes gone. 70-minute games here. 6-1. Broken got to find something now. Hillman. Oh, that's Yo. So sorry. Overthrows, misconnection. Bropen have a chance now to send their D-line out. Let's see if they can operate some good end zone discipline. Warnock, after a fantastic cycle with GB Open, goes to... Can't see who that is, so sorry. Oh, it's 9. Back to Cameron. Back to Warnock, goes high. Cameron, bit of shake and bake. Just really smothering end zone defense from Clapham. They're kind of happy to push Bropen to come out the end zone just as long as they don't get it in there. Parnell with the disc. Back to Cameron. Bit of end zone flow. Free player after Clapham overcommits together. They're on the board now, 6-3.
And really good showing from Bristol there, finally taking the opportunity to have some patience outside the end zone. Beautiful offense. It wasn't without an intense amount of pressure. Clapham really happy to call switches as some of the Bristol players are going up the line. This cut from Sam Cameron to slash across. Force tries to come around, and then a player is just completely isolated at the front end zone line. Now giving them to 6-2.
I think that's the risk-reward ratio that you get when you do an end zone defense when you're sharing, which is if there is a miscommunication, it does blow open the whole thing and leaves a player free, and that's what's happened there. And it's good heads up from Bropen to recognise that, hey, I'm free. I think I can score a goal here. 6-3 then here at the London Invite. Plenty more Ultimate happening around the stadium. Just behind Gigi and I believe we've got Blueprint from Brooklyn versus the Goannas. And then on the far sideline, we've got Canada U24 versus Chevron, which leaves the show pitch, pitch 1 on the turf, being... Going to test me now.
I actually think that is no Ranelagh.
It's no Ranelagh, there we go. I've run through them all. Plenty of Ultimate on the fields here, so thank you so much for joining us. As we see Bropen with a great pull. Rolling, it is very gusty here. And Clapham straight off. This is this O-leaning line that we were talking about a few minutes. We see Armela to Wilson, one of the Wilson brothers. Back to Armela, tosses one over the top to Ford. Ford goes all the way across. Armela again. Hear the melt call from Bristol Open. Parnell, Wilson drops it. Bit of a fist pump from Bropen. That's an opportunity, a rare opportunity. Hopefully they can capitalise. They've got a long way to go. This upwind, downwind is really starting to build now. That is a nice shot. But Rowledge, after a good couple of years of injury, back and showing his class. Amela shooting to a very free Wilson, who finds it this time. Martin streaks in front of the disc and a little dishy pop. That's a goal for Clapham, 7-2.
I know that we're talking a lot about the wind, but it is honestly causing a lot of havoc. We're having some of the perfect throws being executed, as we saw there from the previous Clapham possession. It's not just throwing that's hard in the wind, though. With catching, you have to give an extra few ounces of concentration, an extra split second to be able to make sure that you are going to be within the right path, the right flight path of the disc, and then secure it within your grasp. So it's not easy catching a lot of these discs. As soon as a gust of wind comes through, you have to try to subdue your panic slightly, as we see on Wilson's face there. The panic is real.
Yeah, there's nothing worse on a breezy day catching a gusty disc. 7-2 then. Clapham, Bristol. Bristol kind of struggling to find their groove. They are making some really, really great shapes. They're taking the right options, but I think sometimes when you're just kind of being outclassed by a side like Clapham, it's hard to take the wins. However, the wins that we're seeing here for Bropen is confidence building. If they can play like this against a team like Clapham, who's to say they can't play like that against other teams that would be deemed by the EUCS ranking as better than them?
Oh yeah, certainly. In particular, from what I've seen in the first 9 points here, Bristol are playing their game, and they should continue to play their game. Like, that's not something that they should give up whatsoever. The only thing is that they do have to make some adjustments in order to prevent Clapham from getting in the way.
Bropen with the dish then. Zarod in front. Good handle of field from Bropen. Allen all alone. They're doing a bit of a switchy, poachy defense here, are Clapham. Allen throws a hammer all the way to his teammate, Sully. Sully gives and goes. You can see East really sitting under Allen, forcing him to go deep. Loses him there. Allen to Sully. Barked by Rowledge. Lloyd, front of the end zone. To Jeffrey. To Lloyd. Lloyd fakes the backhand. Throws a knifey one over the top, runs all the way out the back, and that is a turnover for Bristol Open. However, some great movement.
Again, solid patience up until this throw.
I think potentially Lloyd wanted if I was doing it, I would sit that out way wider. Because you had 2 players marked by Tom Abrams, split Tom, and one of them gets a goal. But we see Nugent, again, one of the TDs of the tournament, walking up, tapping the disc in. Clapham going upwind to Gordon, fumbles it. Abrams, marked by Sully. East is very free in the deep space. Mum pump fakes, can't take it. Back to Hill, who you can see gesturing, saying, hey, where's the options? Abrams fires one, it's sitting, and we see Rowledge underneath it. Goes down pretty hard. I think he's okay. That was a tough one to read.
Yeah, definitely more frustrated with the fact that he touched it, had fingers to it, almost grabbed onto it, but again, the universe said no.
It takes and it gives, and it's given Bropen the opportunity to try and put in their hold, to hold off half time. Can they take it to 7-3 as we see Sully on the disc? Zarod takes it. Mason. That's nice. Fires a flick huck to Allen. Gonna need to fly, can't fly. That's good from Mason, a great place to put the disc field positioning wise.
A massive gust of wind came through just as Mason had released that. And I don't, like, even if Allen had been, I don't think the wind would have given him enough of a boost to be able to get there. It would have been heroic. But that is, yeah, certainly a connection that has happened many times before, as you mentioned, Mason and Allen coming from Ubu.
We see it again here. That is really nice throwing form from Mason. Mason, my housemate. Shout out, Tiga's house as we call it. Been practicing those with Knight, also on the field. Another one of my housemates, but we see a timeout being called ahead of halves. So Clapham will have the disc on the front of their end zone line after that turnover. We're going to take a quick break here to grab a drink, but stay tuned, stay inside. We are going to watch Clapham versus Bristol in the second half, coming shortly.
What are they, spaceships from Mars? No, they're Frisbees. Watch it soar. It flies way around like a bird. You can even run for a pass. You can play all kinds of games. Isn't it amazing? Frisbee Flying Saucer. Yours at toy, drug, and department stores.
We are back here at the London Invite watching Clapham versus Bristol in Open Round 2. Clapham are up 7-2. They've had a couple of really good, strong breaks against this Bristol Open side. Bristol not had the same luck, however, are making some fantastic shapes. The options they're making are correct, however, right now, potentially just a bit outclassed. Clapham have just taken a timeout on the front of Bropen's end zone line. Not the best positioning as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I'd agree with that, but there were maybe Nugent thought that he wanted to set something up to then set them up to take half. We have seen some sort of pull play here.
Pull play seemingly worked nicely. They've got it out of their end zone. Put it up to just shy of 1/3. Hill on the disc. Doing everything this year is Hill as we feel our tent almost disappear. Nugent flies to maintain the possession. That was a very, very strong gust of wind. Gordon on the disc. Back to Hill. Hill throws low to Nugent, well taken. Throws a bladey flick into the end zone and just drops out the hand. That is exactly what Gigi was talking about earlier.
Yeah, you can see Abrams sets himself up perfectly, and even in the background, Whitlock reacting to that. It's The wind just makes catching so much harder. Abrams would have had to readjust his momentum forward in order to catch that, which is near on impossible.
Frisbee is a strange old beast, often very humbling, as we see Sully with the disc. Zarod to Lloyd. Needing an option, some good handler defense from CU. Good, finds a release valve. Just pops out, Mum steps through. Nugent flies. Mum receives just outside the end zone. East comes and fills the spot, and that is a break for Clapham to take half, and that is 8-2 here on pitch 3.
Yeah, the connection to Mum is successful this time round, not having to throw an absolute laser blade into the end zone. I was going to say it was a beautiful inside shot. It almost was before, again, the wind, the 15th player on the pitch, decides otherwise. And Nugent managing to retain possession, save it for Clapham, just to bobble off. Slap back into the hands of Nugent, and then sits out a beautiful backhand with a lot of touch into Abrams' chest, and then Clapham decisively taking half.
Decisively, and I think that's the right word for this tournament. They are playing with decisiveness. They know what they want, they know the structures they want to play, and we're starting to see a shift in the momentum where Bropen potentially not playing the game that they necessarily want to. This is a good opportunity in this half-time for them to take a reset, and we're going to take a reset here in the booth, and we're going to join you back very shortly.
I worked for a Michelin star chef making gelato in Paris. I had my own restaurant in Nicaragua and a food truck in Australia. Why wouldn't you watch me? Check out my YouTube channel.
Always on the move? You can keep up to date with ULTI.TV on all of our social media channels. Like, follow, subscribe, share us with a friend, or send us a message just to say hey. Thank you for supporting us in our mission to grow Ultimate everywhere.
Yeah, look, all of my friends going crazy. I gotta brag on myself.
Welcome back to the London Invite. It's Open round 2 here, and we are watching Bristol Open versus Clapham. Clapham are 8-2 up. Coming out on offense, I'm Amelia Durbin, joined by Gigi Morrison, and we are here watching, seeing if Bropen can find their feet in this game, find a little bit more momentum and start really pushing this Clapham side. We see a bit of a different defensive look here, hoping to test the brains of Clapham. Got a zone. So we see Clapham making some good work. Briggs on the disc, back to Mead. Clapham really kind of clustering around the disc. They're not really making a lot of good space for each other. They find the wing but take it back.
Yeah, Bristol have got a 3-person setup at the front, and usually you'd kind of want to do quick give-go and break around the back and try and get some swings going. But yeah, they were clustering a fair amount, but were able to find some sort of gap, sliced it through. There has been some sort of collision and a call, but it's been retracted.
We've had a double collision. So there's a collision here and then there's a collision there. So they go down like flies. 2 people clash into each other, unsure as to what the outcome is. We see Yo kind of really push. Push Knight. Ford. Bid required, not a D, and that is a goal for Clapham out of half-time, 9-2. This is probably not what Bristol Open wanted. However, they have to stay in it. They have to stay positive. They have to kind of keep working. A game's not over until it's over. And I've commentated 2 Bristol Open games this year, and the scoreline both times hasn't been particularly great for them. So hoping to see a little bit of fire, but when you're up against a side like Clapham, you really do have the odds stacked against you. So let's hope that they can take something from this.
I do like that they switched it up on defense, though, throwing a zone out at Clapham. As you mentioned, yeah, it flustered them because all of the handlers were clustered within one central space, which is not exactly what you want to be doing against a zone in general, particularly a zone like that. But once Clapham were able to find that gap and work it through, Bristol's defense couldn't quite recover. And then obviously there was the stoppage, which again meant that things got a bit hazy, went back into a match mark, and Clapham just taking it in their stride, not really finding much of a problem with it. Now giving it a 7-point difference between the two.
As we see some lovely shots from the sideline here. The crowds really are buzzing. It's great to have a tournament like London Invite that's able to provide the world's best Frisbee in London. Lots of people able to travel down and watch. I believe they sold quite a lot of tickets. I believe it's pushing 400.
That is a lot of tickets.
And that just shows how many people want to watch Ultimate. It's great, it's growing, and it's amazing. And we're so fortunate for the tournament, and also to everyone who's helped make this tournament possible, all of our sponsors, all of our supporters, all of you watching at home. You help put Frisbee on the map. Bristol Open. Battling, a real uphill battle as we see Clapham do a zone of their own. A little bit more passive than the previous from their opposition. And Bropen finds Mason to Dekiro. Just drops it out the hands. That's really unfortunate. Bad timing as well. Right on the front, needs to find a reset and finds it. There's a big gust of wind. The hat goes and out the hands. You see a really nice throw from Wilson to just really drop it over, but comes with a bit too much heat, and McCulloch just pings it out.
It's almost 2 identical turnovers from Bristol, from Clapham. They're having a quick discussion as to whether the disc is possibly warped. Maybe some impact with McCulloch's face.
Ow. Ow, the face.
Yeah, not the best. But that's again where you don't really want the disc to be in your face.
No. There's a very, very funny photo from Wind Farm a couple of weeks ago of Mason getting hit in the face with a Frisbee.
Oof.
Very funny.
That sounds painful.
He goes down like he has been shot.
Ah.
Mason goes backfield, sweeps all the way over to Barrett. Barrett, big shoulder dig, fakes the backhand huck. Back to Mason. To Lloyd. Doesn't want to hit Mason on the strike. Now they're stuck. Finds Barrett through a little dishy pass in the middle. Bropen have to try and get the disc towards Gigi and I in the booth.
Not just to play Frisbee well, but because we also want to see what's happening.
Let us see you, let us see you.
But this Clapham defense is suffocating. It's completely smothering any possible options. All 4 of the defenders at the front there did bite on Mason's huck, which is kind of the good energy that you want to be seeing here. Mason really shepherding the offense for Bristol.
But what I will say is they are taking a lot of passes, but they're not really going anywhere. And I think that you can see just in there are 6 Clapham players that are just pressuring. And the person sitting out deep is probably not too worried, because if they haven't hit a shot by now, they're probably not going to. And when you've got that many defenders around you, oh, it's terrifying. The movement from Bropen is great, but they're not progressing yards. And that is what Clapham want.
Yeah, I'd like to see more of this, the throw and go. That is exactly how you're going to break through this. You've got to try and separate the defenders in that 4-person cup.
Dekiro throws out the line and it bobbles, and Butt comes down with it. Fakes the hammer, doesn't take it. Wilson rises. Martin strikes. And dig. Oh, there's going to be a conversation. Turnover accepted. A bit of a comedy of errors there. Good control from Martin, to be fair, to keep that inbounds. I think it potentially was called out. However, the reaction speed, very impressive.
Yeah, I didn't quite have enough time to be able to see what was going on. It's a good option from Wilson.
Yeah, it was a bid from Dig Hero. Swats it out the way. Martin hangs on. Swatted. Foul being called. Accepted. Barrett will have this. Barrett playing on the U24 mixed side. Excuse me. Played yesterday evening against the Australian U24 side and the Canada U24 side. Playing very well himself. Worth noting again that this is a ranked game, so Bristol Open need to try and take as much as this from they can, not only from the experience but also points-wise, as Butt, taller than most, takes it down, and now they are in flow. This Clapham line, travel called, McCulloch dances backwards. Mead, Martin. Martin to Mead. To Ogden, open side, there's a goal. 10-2 to Clapham. Bropen looking slightly frustrated now.
Yeah, Clapham are beginning to run away with this game ever so slightly. I did think that there was possibly going to be some sort of pick call, seeing as Ogden was so wide open. This bid coming through, really great pressure, but Martin doesn't seem to be phased at all. Initially looking for Mead to go up the line, didn't necessarily like the option, so Mead has to come back into the sand pit, and Ogden wide open for Clapham.
That's a really prime example, and again I had it in our game GG earlier, which is if you're going to surround a stack, you have to be heads up, because if you surround a stack and you mark a space rather than a player, the player's just going to run past you, and that is exactly what happened there. Bropen were bracketing, and Ogden just went, all right, I'll just go where you're not. And it's an open side, easy goal, capitalising on the miscommunication from Bristol Open.
It's just good cutting, really, isn't it?
It's just great cutting, and we will say it again and again. Fundamentals. 10-2 then here in Open round 2. An EUCS ranked game with the almighty algorithm points available.
We've got 15 minutes, or just under 15 minutes of gameplay left for this round, and then we'll be moving on to mixed play. I believe it'll be USA versus Canada under 24s. Nope, I'm wrong. It will be Germany versus SuperTeam on this pitch. But USA Canada will be played on another pitch. That is going to be the free game for that round. And then it's going to be Canada France on the main show pitch on pitch 1. In obviously mixed pool play.
Lots of Ultimate Frisbee coming your way, but speaking of Ultimate Frisbee, Bropen are underway, hoping to try and get the disc in the end zone, but they are unable, and which gives Clapham another opportunity. These opportunities are coming thick and fast. As we see Long on the field. I must apologise to Alexis Long. I was calling you Axel Armela. I have just played a game and I saw the X in your game for Lex and was like, that's Axel. It's not Axel.
Despite all the other letters surrounding Lex's name being different.
Yeah, I don't think I've got dyslexia. Sometimes I do just think I'm thick. And that's okay.
I love that. I don't think you're thick, but I love that your belief is self-aware.
Oh, yeah. It's 100% just my own fault, and I apologise. I've got no reason to do that. I just did. And we see a turnover on the front of the end zone, which gives the disc back to Bristol Open. I want to see them get a goal. We've got 13 minutes left. They need to put the disc in the end zone, get a couple of breaks and bring this closer. This matters on the algorithm. Right now, Bristol Open's score in the algorithm is not great. And this will only add more damage to them. Cameron fires to Juma. Juma's free. Can he get there? He can't. It's out of bounds. Runs it too far. You do see Juma apologising. Here's another look.
It looks to be pretty close. Again, would have been heroic catch. A lot of pressure on the back shoulder from Modiano.
I think you just know when it's a good time to bid and not to bid. Too often do you see players try and make heroic bids when the disc is already finished, and they do injure themselves. And I think as much as that body control and foul in our spirit of the game is also to how you're impacting other players, but also how you're kind of treating yourself. So that's kind of good awareness from Juma to not try and be the hero, recognise that disc is out of bounds. As we see Briggs on the disc to Wilson, testing a lot of players, and Bropen win that game. Interesting to see Clapham kind of played down at this point. That was not a great option. Let's see what Bropen can do.
I wonder if they're maybe deliberately trying to take some riskier options just to be like, right, we've got an 8-point buffer, use it. Let's practice some things that we can't practice usually.
Yeah, shooter's got to shoot, and there is a shot. And again, just trailing out of bounds, not able to maintain possession this time, which gives Clapham an opportunity to run one of their very well-known plays. I would not be surprised to see the disc move to this sideline near Gigi and I quite effortlessly, but Warnock will be marking long on the force.
Do you see some quite frustrated facial expressions still on the pitch? Maybe people just thinking like, hey, we can just close this off pretty quickly, and some of the Bristol lot being like, right, we can take on these options a bit better than we have been.
Ford. Out of bounds. Again, these options from Clapham not really necessary, however, they are still taking them. Potentially they're hucking for field position. We know that that's a really nasty place to be, having just played in that.
But they're also very capable of getting themselves out of it without having to throw 30% completion hucks.
Yeah, when you've got a big buffer, it's kind of hard to maintain that level of professionalism. So this is a lesson for both teams. Cameron to Juma, really aggressively attacked by Rowledge. Good hands to Cameron. Juma free, not able to take it. Cameron, good from Briggs to not get scooped there. Nice break throw. This is good from Bropen, but just an overthrow. And that is again a turnover.
It was beginning to look slick. They had some momentum, gaining a fair amount of yards, but it's as soon as they get closer to that end zone, it's that last throw before the goal. Like it's the hockey assist. Or there we go, getting my words out of my mouth.
I love a hockey assist, but we see a turnover by Clapham. This is a messy point. I don't want to sound too critical or too harsh, but this is not great from both of these teams.
They are saying the exact same thing as us.
Yeah, it's no surprise. Gatewood Rolfe. And that's a goal, a really, really much needed hold, and well worked for Juma there. 10-3, 9 minutes on the clock. They're finally here. Maybe this is them arriving at the station, the break train, all aboard.
I mean, I don't think the station's within reach at this point. The cap rule's slightly different for this tournament. We don't have a finish the point, add one and play through. There's not enough time in between each rounds to be able to get to that sort of end point. So at this point, it's just staunch the bleeding and gain as many points as you possibly can within this short amount of time, and just hope that it doesn't affect the US ranking too much.
Yeah, for those of you that are watching at home, I wouldn't be surprised to have quite a few of our North American friends joining us this weekend. When we say the EUCS ranking system, for us players here in Europe, the way that we qualify for the European Championships is through a ranking algorithm, which was created by some technical wizards that I don't know who. And basically, when you play a game which is counting towards that, the score line goes into the almighty algorithm and spits you out at the other end with a position on a big board of all the teams that are also trying to qualify. I know at the moment that Clapham are actually relatively low by their estimations. I believe they're sitting around the 7th or the 8th spot, whereas Bristol are much, much below that, maybe in the 27th spot. Bropen did not qualify for Euros last year. I believe they were at Euros in 2023 when we used to qualify through the old system, which was just based off UK nationals. But now their D-line is out there as we see a great pull fielded by Rana, one of the youngest players on Clapham, playing with the U24 mixed side. East to Hill, another young player, young to young to young. Hill to Meadow to East, to Sarin, back to East. East going to be around in Frisbee for years, got so much experience and only very young. Hill to East, back to Hill. Good move from James Mead. That's that Oyo that Clapham are so well known for. Slicing to Gordon, 11-3, Clapham over Bristol.
And you highlighted in that point where you were saying young to Mead, the fact that Clapham are using very different players to what they've historically used, which is what you had explained in the fact that they're trying to get all of their players onto at least very similar pages of ability of all things, which I think is great to bring into a WUC qualifier year. There is a part of me that has previously questioned, is it a little too late to start to do that? But I think their performance at this tournament so far is indicating that I should have eaten my words, and I will be eating my words. They are dominant so far, and if they can continue this performance throughout the rest of the tournament, then what are they going to bring in through the rest of the European season? What are they going to bring in for Euros, qualifying for WUC, building up to that really big Worlds year?
Yeah, Clapham, I think, kind of carrying the weight of the world on their shoulders at the moment. When you've been so dominant for so many years, you must feel a lot of pressure to feel like you constantly need to perform. And I think they're just trying to match what they did nearly 4 years ago with that bronze medal. They were up in their semi-final to go into the final by 3 or 4 points and then ended up losing. So we know that Clapham is a team that is reaching for the stars. So we will see how it all plays out for them in the rest of the season and the season next year. Bropen slow to pick up the disc. Mason will receive it. Marked by Ogden. Call downfield. A bit of a argy-barge, boshy-bosh. Foul's accepted, which means it's going to stay with Mason with a grin on his face. Nice to see him out there having a good time. Barrett and Hillman going head to head, and Hillman just having a little bit more acceleration, swats it away from Barrett. Martin picks up the disc. Chris Hillman tries to tow it in. It's been called in, but it's been called out.
Yeah,
Jeffrey
two
retracts.
different opinions being called there.
50-50. I believe it's going to stay in the hands of Dan Hillman, lovingly known as Dillman, the younger of the Dillman brothers, to Felix Martin. Felix Martin goes to butt. Ogden shimmies to Eels. Eels can't hit Martin. Goes round to Wilson, another brother, Conrad, to Dan Hillman. Martin, nice isolation, back to Wilson. Into the hands of Dan Hillman. But tries to get free and can't. Down the line, gives up on the disc. You could see Wilson just wasn't sure who it was for. That's a turnover for Clapham. Bropen back on offense.
Yeah, Wilson looked at the disc, looked at the option, seeing, oh, that's gone past me, surely that's for somebody else, and then realizing, wait, no, that was for me.
It was interesting from Wilson there because it felt like that disc was catchable pretty much the whole time. Again, from our perspective, that's what it looked like. In reality, probably wildly different, but kind of a strange miscommunication from Clapham as we see Mason and Martin having a bit of a battle. Well known for playing together on the indoor scene in the UK, is a beautiful backhand. Ayo goes over the top just again, that is the gust of wind that takes it too far. That's a really nice look from Mason.
Yeah, I love the option. And again, it, in theory, is catchable. In theory, can't emphasize this enough. But the wind is just so dominating and really shuts down every single option. It makes it so hard to catch anything that it just sank it down into the sandy grass.
Yeah, the wind would do what I would refer to as sitting it down. It just said, to the ground you go. Ooh, an up and down call going to be discussed here. Let us prepare for everyone to come to the booth and look at the screen.
And I believe that time has expired during that point.
Let's see it again. McCulloch throws quite low. Oh, you know, I think that might be up.
Yeah, it seems to be accepted up, so staying with Eels. That one's
Eels
high.
to Hillman, to Barrett. Another injury. Hillman
Dropping
might
like
just rolled his
flies.
ankle. We've had a lot of injuries in this game, which is interesting because
On this
normally you
field?
see on this field.
Yeah.
It's cursed.
Hopefully not.
Yeah, hopefully everyone who's injured is absolutely fine. Just a twist, just a knock. I've also seen Conrad Wilson take his boots off. Not sure if that's because he's feeling some aches and some pains or because the time is over, which means the game is done. Whatever happens here, it's Christmas, as I like to say. Barrett to Zarod. Zarod faking aggressively. To Lloyd. Bath University teammates. To Lloyd. To Jacobs. To Zarod. Zarod throws a nice little Oyo, and that's a goal for Bristol to end the game. It's 11-4 here in the open round 2. The game is over, time has expired. Gigi, what are your thoughts?
Oh, I have so many. I mean, I'm extremely impressed by Bristol. They showed amazing glimpses of composure. In particular, that whole last possession, they were calm, they were chill. Again, this last throw, questionable, but it worked out for them. I love the confidence. They played their own game throughout the entire match, but Clapham just showing the class that they have, did not let up at all. There were a few times where they faltered and Bristol applied an immense amount of pressure on them, didn't make it easy. But again, yeah, Clapham making me eat my words.
Now, I think that we were wrong. Clapham are currently walking up the field and it's looking like they're going to play another point. That makes no sense to me.
That doesn't make any sense.
Time was over during the point, which means that once the final goal is scored, it's game. Not sure if that's for any reason other than maybe just to rep it out, but by the tournament rules, unless I am, and Gigi and I are wildly wrong, that should be finished.
Our Cam 2 operator is nodding fervently.
But it's okay, the more ultimate the better. I can see teams starting to get ready. We're in mixed round 2 next, and we have a really good game on this field. Not that this wasn't a good game, but realistically, this weekend it's all about the World Games teams. They are here, they have travelled from all across the world to have their prep tournament before the World Games later in the summer. And the super team are lining up. You see them on the back end where that disc is now, getting ready. But Clapham are now getting ready. They got the disc in their hands. Forward to Long, not Alamala. That is not Axel, my bad. To Briggs, who finds a very, very free player in the middle in James Mead. James Mead now. Bristol Open have changed to match defense. Goes free, big fakes. Martin. Stall count's getting high. James Mead and Martin can't connect. An immediate shot deep. And that's a goal for Bristol Open to take it to 11-5. What a fantastic shot from Ned. That has to be game.
Yeah, we just had Chris Allen run down the sideline, so you heard it here first, comeback. But again, by the rules of the tournament, that should be game.
Yeah, we see Ross Nugent, who is the TD. He wrote the rule book. He's telling you that the game is over. And the game has to be over. That they cannot play anymore. You see Ford and Nugent saying, come on, boys, it's time to end.
Yeah, even Stefan Rapazzo has very confidently thrown onto the pitch saying, no, it's our game time, let's go.
I don't know why there is any discussion to be had here, because the rule books are very obvious. We are going to act as if the game is over, because it is. Thank you so much for joining us. Clapham take the win 11-5 over Bristol Open in this EUS ranked game. Stay tuned, stay eyes on the stream. We got the World Games teams coming next. For Gigi Morrison, I've been Amelia Durbin, and we will see you soon.
Thank you. Thanks.
ULTI.TV.